to start, I'd like to talk about a word that we use quite a bit in this room. It's called loyalty. Now, the word loyalty entered the English language in the 15th century. It derives from the Latin and passed through to the French, but it still retains its original meanings of commitment, faithfulness, and devotion. For this discussion, we've assembled a group of retail experts who will talk about what they know about reaping the rewards of spending the time, money, and effort required to get their customers to be more committed, more faithful, and ever more devoted to their brands. To lead this discussion, please welcome our panel and Jeena Sharma, the luxury reporter at Retail Brew.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. As Alan explained, the topic for discussion today is customer loyalty, which has been top of mind for most retailers across the board forever, but more so in the past few years as they're faced with more economic challenges and changes in the form of inflation, recession. So what can retailers do about it? What are the opportunities there, and what other innovations are there? We have 4 incredible panelists here to talk about it, and I'm gonna start off by letting them introduce themselves first and talk about what customer loyalty means to each of you.
Start here?
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. I'm Fayez, co-founder and CEO of BlueCore. We are a retail-specific platform that focuses on identification and customer movement. We just turned 10 years this year, and it's been interesting to see the trajectory of what loyalty means and how it has changed since then. I think the biggest change is it's not a binary concept anymore. Customers are not loyal or not loyal. It's a spectrum, and figuring out how to deal with it has a bunch of different perspectives that I'm excited to share and excited to learn more from others as well.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Omer Iqbal. I'm part of Shiseido Group. You may be familiar with brands like NARS, Drunk Elephant, Clé de Popote, Tory Burch. I oversee digital for them across the globe. For us, loyalty really is mostly about brand love. How do we create that relationship with our consumers and make sure that they become advocates for our brands? One of the aspects for that could be, helping create loyalty programs that drive that. Talking a little bit about retention and brand love. So yeah, excited to hear what everybody else has to say.
Awesome, good afternoon. I'm Julie Evans. I'm CMO at Omaha Steaks. And we are the pioneer and a leader in delivering gourmet food steaks directly to consumers. We are celebrating our 108th birthday this year. So we've been around for a while and been doing this. So when I think about customer loyalty, I actually have my team organized around the customer. So I have a team that really understands what they can spend to acquire a customer. And then they hand it off to the customer development team that is all about driving that retention in our customer file. And sort of their victory speech that they have for the year is that the customer will say, gosh, Omaha Steaks really gets me. So we focus a lot on removing friction from the ordering process and being really easy to do business with and delivering remarkable experiences.
Awesome. I'll close this out. Hi, good evening. I was going to say good afternoon, but it's pretty much evening. So I'm Julie Roy. I'm the CMO for DSW, which hopefully all of you are very well aware of and feed your shoe obsession regularly. I see some smiles, so I know I've got some loyalists in the audience, which is great. For those of you that haven't or aren't as familiar, so we're a leading omni-channel shoe retailer that carries all the most popular national brands as well as private label brands as well. So how we think about loyalty at DSW is really as a customer and business strategy, not just a program. And I like to think about it as a pyramid almost. So at the bottom layer of the pyramid, the foundation is really that brand experience, right? It's going to be what drives that positive experience that gets customers coming back time after time. And then the middle layer of the pyramid that sits on top of that is, you kind of alluded to it, CRM and engagement. So those programs and channels that drive customers deeper into the funnel and engagement with your brand. And then at the very top, the loyalty program that drives that brand love, loyalty, more of a longer term loyalty view and customer lifetime value. And it's really important to think of all three of those, right? Sometimes marketers face pressure around the loyalty program specifically, but it has to be built on that strong foundation of a brand experience and then the programmatic elements that sit on top to drive that engagement and retention as well.
Great, thank you. Julie, Roy, yeah, that's going to be confusing, but you'll know when I'm talking to you. So you had mentioned earlier to me that retention is something that you have really focused on as a brand, and stickiness is very important for DSW, but times have changed. You know, there are a lot of economic challenges today. Is it still something that's important, and is it more important than customer acquisition?
Oh man, that's like the continual debate, right? Acquisition versus retention, because they're all critically important. It's important to fill the funnel, important to protect the leaky bucket at the bottom as well. And so it really depends on kind of business environment, climate changes, goals. So really refining that. In particular, we've been looking at more of a longer term view of that. So not just cost per acquisition, cost per retention, but really correlating that with CLV. So we're looking at a more longer term ROI point of view around that as well.
And Julie Evans, you had a different point of view earlier when we spoke about how you at Omaha has spent a lot of effort and a lot of time in customer acquisition. So how has that been for you, and why did you pursue that as a strategy?
Well, acquisition and retention really go together. When retention is working, right, that allows you to invest more in customer acquisition. So something that we're doing at Omaha Steaks, you know, in this period of like recession and inflation, you know, you hear the word shrinkflation, where you get less, but you spend the same amount. Maybe you even spend more and you get less. We've actually done just the opposite at Omaha Steaks. We're investing in our product. So today, our base package that you get in our packages, our products are bigger. We're trimming our steaks even tighter than we did before, so you're getting, you know, all steak. We're actually aging our steaks longer, and all of this is an investment in our product. Now, some of this, we're passing some of that cost on to our customer, but not all of it. And we are really winning with this because customers are noticing and they're coming back for more. Our retention rates have never been better. So what that means is that I'm getting a better lifetime value from my acquisition efforts when that first experience with Omaha Steaks is better, and it just feeds the flywheel. Because that's driving a better LTV, I can invest more to acquire a better customer for Omaha Steaks.
And Omer, how do you think things like inflation or recession has affected Shiseido, and how are you sort of, you know, deferring a strategy?
Yeah, we've had to pivot a little bit because makeup was down during COVID. People weren't, but what the bright spot was that people were very, very regimental about their skincare. They really wanted to spend money on those kind of experiences. So for us, it was about pivoting our strategy. Retention is very important for us. Word of mouth, customer advocacy was high on our radar to how do we engage with consumers in a meaningful way while they can't visit the store. How do we create experiences where they can do testing on themselves, you know, whether it's a virtual try-on, whether it's a skin diagnostic tool, and how do we gamify that along with loyalty? So I think that was really important for us. Acquisition, because we acquired Drunk Elephant, it was a Sephora native brand. So creating the D2C channel for that was also so heavy focus on acquisition there. And then again, I think retention, like you said, Julie, plays a pivotal role in controlling your marketing costs, in increasing customer lifetime value, and yeah.
And Fayez, as a marketer, what is your point of view on how retailers should be approaching these challenges? What are their avenues to deal with them better? And yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll talk about everything besides using BlueCore. But I think the stat that I found fascinating, if you looked at the three generations, you go from the boomers to the millennials and then the Gen Z. I think everywhere you look at the boomers, something like 65% become loyal and then they stick to it once you get to that point. Go down to millennials, it's about low 50s. And then you get to Gen Z, it's low 30s. And that's a profound stat because that means once you get to the later generations, even if when someone's loyal, that means 70% of your audience will switch once they get there, right? So that goes back to, again, it's not, in our mind, it's not a binary concept, it's a spectrum. And then the implication of that is something we know as the customer journey. We believe it's dead. There is no linear journey. It used to be a short linear path, and now it's very nonlinear, which means brands and marketers have to think about nonlinear journeys. And the framework we use is how you think about signals and how to respond to them no matter where they are. And that, I think, has implications on how you connect with customers, how you think about the data you have, how you identify them, and how you ultimately reduce the path to shorten the time of purchasing. So it's really about rethinking some of the mental models that existed in the past and how you adapt it in this new world.
And you brought up Gen Z, which,
You're part of, I believe?
Huh? Oh,
no.
Sadly, no. But thank you, I appreciate it. Sadly, I'm a millennial. But Gen Z shops more and more with their values, more than ever. So what are your thoughts on value-driven retail and what retailers can do sort of to push that forward and connect with the younger consumers?
Yeah, I think I can qualify to answer one part of that because we're not a brand. But again, the one thing that has come out is like, yes, everyone is more value conscious than in the past, but we've also found out that they're extremely price conscious as well. So values matter as long as you're providing a good product at a great price. And that may not apply to everybody. So that's what we've found out. And then you think about how do you use that context in a way that's meaningful. For example, one of the health and beauty brands we worked with was launching a specific category of products that had to do with clean beauty. And the task became, who's the best customer set to introduce that product to? And data, you can do a pretty good job of answering that question because the response from that is probably more indicative of who your future high lifetime value or loyal customers might be. So that's the way we look at it.
No, that's a good, it's also a good point about price and values because I think I read about a different study recently which polled Gen Zers, millennials, and older generations, and Gen Z seems to be least concerned with sustainability when making shopping decisions. So it's an interesting find. But Omar, Julie's, both of you, I sort of have the similar question for you. Where do you stand on corporate responsibility, and how important are social-driven initiatives, and how important is that for you to communicate that with your consumers? And anyone can go first.
I'll start, Julie on the end. It's definitely important, and as you noted, it's increasingly important, particularly with younger generations more broadly around mission-driven, values-driven brands. I think the main thing is it has to be truly what you believe and what you stand for, and what you're communicating to customers is just an extension of what you're communicating internally. I think we've all seen the headlines over the last few months of brands that haven't done that well, which is a great reminder that it can't just be lip service, right? It just needs to be an amplification of, as a brand, what you stand for and what you believe.
Julie?
So when I think about our values, so it's important for Omaha Steaks to give back to communities, and so we partner with a company called Mercy Chefs. So when there are national disasters where people, for example, hurricanes, we will be the first one in line that will donate, lots and lots of food, so people who have lost their shelter can go and get food during those challenging times.
Yeah, I think with us, it really depends on what resonates with the customer. And that's where data becomes really, really important for us. So for example, if someone is really concerned about clean beauty, how do we make sure that's highlighted more so about the ingredients of the products that we're using, sustainable products, things like that. So it really depends on what kind of value a customer is looking from a brand. We have Drunk Elephant that uses only 6 ingredients. If that resonates well with you as a customer, how do we, make sure that the customer is aware of all of those things, and how are those brought in to the product? Yeah.
And speaking of Gen Z, we know that they're very active on social media. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I guess for Omaha Steaks, I know your Instagram is pretty amazing. And you've invested a lot in social media strategies, clearly. So how important is that for you? And can you elaborate a little bit on that strategy?
Well, we try to build community, especially those people, those customers that have, our high value customers have great loyalty to our brand. But when we're reaching out to our active customer base and actually doing paid social media activations, we do lots and lots of testing to understand at an audience level how effective that investment is. And it's not that direct response that we're looking at. It's like, how did it impact that customer's overall buying with Omaha Steaks? So for example, someone who is opted into our email and opted into our SMS, you might say that, gosh, well, I don't need to talk to them digitally because I'm already reaching them through those channels and digital is more expensive. But that's what we learned, it's actually not the case, that those customers making that extra investment in social actually drives up their total company-wide sales with Omaha Steaks. And you might think someone who is opted out of email, well, I need to talk to them digitally. Well, not always does that play out. Some of those audiences within our opted out file, it doesn't make sense to even reach them digitally. So I just encourage you, when you're looking at social and making investments there, to really understand the incrementality across all of your audience and all of your tactics.
Julie, the other Julie, we spoke a little bit about how DSW has, typically an older audience. Do you feel like social media still plays an important role in terms of customer loyalty, or does it have any impact for you as a brand?
Yeah, definitely. Social media is a huge part of our engagement and retention strategies as well as acquisition. At the end of the day, it's where people are spending their time. It's only increasing and it's only growing across multiple platforms. So we need to be where they are from a customer perspective, and then from a brand and category perspective. Shoes are inspirational and impulsive, particularly for our customer, right? You show him or her, most likely her, a sexy pair of shoes, and she can find a reason of why she needs another pair for her shoe closet, right? Myself included. And they're kind of always in the market. And so we need to be out there and inspiring and exciting her with amazing content that feels platform native and not like an ad, but also protecting that kind of click shoppability experience to seal the deal, if you will, and just continuing to build that. So it's a huge part of our full funnel acquisition mix, and agree with what Julie mentioned here in terms of fully assessing the incrementality, because sometimes it can be undervalued.
And Fayez, I have a different question for you, but before that, I want to ask Omar, since he reps a big portfolio of brands, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I think authenticity, I think one of you mentioned earlier, that's really, really important. So with whatever channel it is, sometimes we use social media for temperature check, of if someone is complained about something, how does Shiseido or one of our brands handle that? It's really, really important to make sure that that is also authentic. Other than that, it's a great way of collecting data around what we should be doing next. So we look at social not just for selling, but it's a lot of active listening, a lot of publishing also of what we're doing in the community, as far as, like I mentioned earlier, whatever resonates from a value perspective. Yeah.
Fayez, I guess I want to ask you, what are your thoughts as a marketer in terms of a brand personalizing their marketing needs?
In the context of social, or just in?
In general.
Yeah, and if I can touch on the social piece for 1 second. Again, the stats on Gen Z, it just keeps coming back. 4.5 hours per day on social. Millennials, about 2. Boomers, about 1. So it's kind of mind-blowing in the context of even if somebody's shopping with you regularly and you think they're loyal according to your data, a lot of times they may not know what your brand stands for. So we're finding a lot of opportunities to engage in paid where it makes sense in a way that's promotes long-term lifetime value. Because one of the things we noticed, again, looking at a longitudinal data set, is what happens to customers who are loyal once that are no longer loyal. And in many cases, they were engaging transactionally with you that you thought was based on loyalty, but maybe social could have played a stronger role there. Personalization, going back to your second question, obviously, there's a big role for personalization loyalty in the context of what happens on a day-to-day basis. But I actually think that we found cases like last year going through Black Friday, Cyber Monday, customers who were very engaged and loyal actually reaching out and saying, hey, I want to learn more about the brand. I don't want everything to be so transactionally focused. So there's this concept of like, hey, if you understand your audience, you may want to actually depersonalize in some cases to drive higher lifetime value. In this case, they wanted to find out more about what were the promotions going on, what were the core products you were promoting, right? So personalization is great when it's used well, but I think at the end of the day, you need to think about what is your audience and market for at that moment. And there's a lot of signals that kind of tell you that in I think, better ways than what we've classically thought of personalization as.
You brought up promotions, and that is a good pivot into the next topic I wanted to ask you all about, which is the role of discounts and promotions for your brand. I'll start with both of you. Julie.
So I would say offers are a part of our everyday value prop, but as it pertains to using them to drive deeper engagement and retention, we have existing programs and differentiated offers that we use to drive those behaviors based on existing customer engagement rates and what we're looking to motivate them and change. That we use regularly, we have for quite some time, but there's always test and learn and optimization. It's a continuous journey and continuing to grow and get smarter.
Thank you. Julie?
Yeah, so we use promotions to drive behaviors. So when we're acquiring a customer, we'll be more promotional because we really want to offer a try me offer. We want to get our product in the customers' homes so they can actually see how amazing our steaks are, and that, you know, Omaha Steaks can do seafood really well in complete meals. So we'll be a little more promotional on that acquisition offer, and all of that goes into our P&L and what we can spend to acquire a customer. When it shifts over to our customer development side of the business, we've recently launched a CDP, and we have a 360-degree view of our customer. And from that, we develop what are called offer propensity models. And so we are understanding and can start to predict what offers that customer will respond to. So if we can get the right offer out to that customer, we can improve our response rates and really get to that holy grail where a customer is saying, gosh, Omaha Steaks really gets me. So that's our goal.
I guess the question's different for you, Omer, because I know that luxury brands or premium brands usually stay far away from heavy discounting. So what is the point of view out there at Shiseido?
Yeah, heavy discounting, yes. So for us, it's more about value add. So it's more gift with purchase or the experiences that you get along with that. I wouldn't say we're never promotional. We have to be, there's your regular friends and family, because that is a growth channel for us to acquire new customers. And to Julie's point also, like if we can identify someone who's about to churn, what's the best thing that we can provide them? It's not always a discount. It could be an experience. It could be a spa experience. Anything that would basically engage them again with the brand. So promotions were not that big. Value add in experience is probably the most. And again, you know, just pivoting back to personalization, for our point of view is also that it's so important to let the customer know why we're acquiring the data that they're giving us, what's the value to them, without going into the whole monetization process or discussion. It's really important that they know that this is why they have my data, because they're giving me products, content, experiences that would resonate with me.
I'm also curious if the discounts or promotions you do offer, does it work specifically on a certain demo of your consumers? Is it the younger demo, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the younger demo, but what I would say is that we are looking at creative ways of identifying people who will buy at a discount only versus people who are loyalists, will buy regardless, and then we pivot according to that. Yeah.
And I want to shift the conversation to tech and AI a little bit, because that's been sort of a point of conversation today. We had a session earlier just discussing that. So Fayez, I want to ask you as a marketer, what role do you see, how important is AI and tech for retailers today, and especially when it pertains to customer loyalty or retention?
Yeah, I think the way I think everybody on the stage, including us, we're in the business of how do we convince a shopper to spend money with a brand or a retailer? And especially in this world, in this economy, the shopper's goal is exactly the opposite. How do I spend as little as possible, or why should I spend money with you over somebody else? And I think the lens at which we look at it through is like, well, AI can be a place for finding common ground within that. Obviously, you've heard of all the examples around everything from product discovery to filling gaps in the experience, and AI can help there. But I think even internally at BlueCore, we think about the two buckets: make money, save money. I think there's a lot more opportunity to save money using AI. The whole model of when everybody says, I don't have enough resources, the first question to ask is like, can a co-pilot help? And that touches everything in marketing, from how do you integrate data, how do you do audience selection, how do I do better content? But I think you have to take a pragmatic approach of like, how do I make money or how do I save money? And we think about the save money aspect first, because that's where everyone can drive a lot of value in short order in the near future.
And do any of you have any thoughts on the role tech or AI has played at your brands? I know Shiseido has some AR, AI style.
We do, yeah. Tech is big for us. Again, a lot of the self-service, especially during COVID, like I mentioned, skin diagnostic or one-on-one consultation with beauty associates who were at home, that really enabled and helped us keep our consumers engaged, sales coming in. And in some places, it worked even better than being in person, because you could have a live stream of 2,000-3,000 people within an hour, which you would never get into a store, physically. So I think that it worked really well there. Other than that, I think from a cost-saving perspective, to be able to identify shoppers. So for example, we sell a lot through retailers. I don't want to be targeting that same person who's buying my product at the retailer and spending my media dollars on them. And technology helps in identifying that, and then getting lookalike customers in other channels. So I think we're using technology, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be a table stake for everybody in our industry.
Thank you. Julie's?
Yeah, I would say, launching our CDP, that we have a lot of the foundational work done. Then we have, our tech stack, and we just need to, continue to become efficient in how we execute and deploy all of those models, and what we know that, what those models are telling us what the customer wants. So we've got to get it delivered through our ESP and through our text messaging, as well as creating personalized experiences on our website. So we're doing some of it. It's a journey, right? We still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I would add, obviously the technology stack is critically important to all things customer, particularly marketing and loyalty, from identifying and harnessing customer data all the way through execution, and doing so in a scalable, sustainable, sizable way that supports really agile execution and continual test and learn and optimization. Easy said, harder done. And so I think I'm more in the make money camp that I said earlier, of like, we've done a lot to kind of establish the core foundational, and what's next is really advancing from here. From an AI perspective, we primarily right now leverage capabilities within existing platforms and providers. But as we continue to lean in more, I think the most important lens is improving the customer experience. I think sometimes it's easy to get infatuated by what's sexy, what's sizzly, what's new, but maintaining that lens of we should be doing it for the intent of improving the customer experience, which will improve loyalty and obviously business value as we look forward.
Well, I can see we are running out of time. So that's a great note to end on, unless there is something any of you want to add. Any closing thoughts? Oh, well, all right. We've had a lot of valuable insights today, and to sum up from what some of you have said, customer loyalty should be approached as a strategy and not a program, and it should be something that is built to help customers engage. Promotions and discounts have been valuable to most brands, even in trying times, and more so in trying times, but it doesn't work for all prestige and high-end brands. And brands like Omaha have found success not in strict shrinkflation, but better products and actually keeping the customers coming. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you to our panelists.
Thank you.